it's almost unanimous that if you were to take the average price of the going house, in the particular area, what that costs with the mortgage, insuring it, paying the taxes, homeowner association, all the fees, the costs that come with it, comparing that to the going rent of a similar home in the same area, the spreads, there's gaps all over the nation. So if you go market by market, you can see some marketplaces have a long way for prices to fall. Hey everybody, Jared Jones. A lot of interesting news these days. We're seeing the interest rates have kind of like stabilized in the mid 6% range. A lot of that's positive. Seeing tiny little tick ups in buyers want to get more loan applications these days. But one of the recurring questions, some of the news you're starting to see surface is how we're having some economists say, hey, you know what? We've actually hit a bottom, or we've really found a settling in the marketplace as it relates to housing depreciation. You can really have more confidence from here on out. And there's, obviously some data points that are still going to appear here in the next few weeks, which are going to really shed light on just how bad fall and winter was for housing. We obviously can look in, county by county and city by city. You could see your local marketplace probably running downward trends. Kind of hearing those stories throughout the country. But one of the bigger questions becomes, how does the marketplace find a bottom? How do we know when the entire stack of cards is finally settled? That's a statement that comes up is, this housing market's like a house of cards. It's going to fall like a house of cards. And a lot of that, that analogy is kind of bent on the fact that the housing market's kind of layered on itself. You have the bottom rung of the ladder, which is people coming into the market to buy their first home. They're going to buy a property that they can afford. They want something safe and secure, and they buy their first house, and most times it's smaller than they really want. It doesn't have everything they desire, but they in their heads think, if I'm here for a couple of years, I'm going to gain some value out of this house, and I can sell it and move that value up the ladder. And the idea is that everybody from the entry market, the middle range, move up market, and all the way up to luxury, it needs a person entering the bottom of the ladder for the entire thing to keep moving. And that's a fact. So one of the biggest problems that I see in the marketplace right now, and if you want to kind of get an idea of how badly reported some of these, these notions are that the housing market has kind of found its softness, it's troughing now, and we're going to be out of this thing, is you have to understand that you're going to have a balance of a lot of buyers opting into rent, okay? Because remember, everybody doesn't have to buy a house. In the end, buying is obviously a function of determining what's the best option between either renting or buying a home, which cost is better. So as this particular process unfolds, there are many markets in the country, okay? It's almost unanimous that if you were to take the average price of the going house, in the particular area, what that costs with the mortgage, insuring it, paying the taxes, homeowner association, all the fees, the costs that come with it, comparing that to the going rent of a similar home in the same area, the spreads, there's gaps all over the nation. So if you go market by market, you can see some marketplaces have a long way for prices to fall before, that's key, prices or interest rates have to slide. Otherwise, these massive gaps are not going to work, okay? All right, let's walk through just a few here to show you what I mean. Right here, you've got the graph over the top of the buying cost, okay? So you own a home in Dallas, Texas. This particular graph shows that the average mortgage, taxes, insurance per month is $2,917. And then the rent, okay, this is pulled data from Zillow, which for Zillow's estimated algorithm type work, the rentals are actually proven in my career of watching that to be a lot more valuable than their home value estimations are. But look at this. So the difference, $2,917 to buy, $1,800 to rent, you're going to save $1,114 if you're a renter in Dallas. 62% difference. Okay, that's a big deal, right? So you've got housing prices, particularly pushed by the cost of interest rates. So the price of homes shot straight up, and this again is just a cost, right? So this graph leaped even higher once homes were done appreciating because the cost of mortgages doubled from early to towards the end of last year. From early part to end, it went from 2-3% range to 6-7% range.
And at the same time, check this out. So this whole challenge right here, when we talk about how far off will the market need to fall to catch traction, okay? We kind of established that you need an entry buyer for the entire market to move north. It's what we need. You need a buyer to get into the bottom so that the guy in the middle has a chance of moving higher up the ladder. And so when you look at this particular graph, this gap is the problem. And so when you also want to note, look at the trend on rents. So even as home prices are starting to drop, the rents are now still month to month becoming more appealing as they start correcting and going further away from home prices. So when rents, and I guess market by market, I'm going to show you some differences here. Not every market is seeing softening rents, but if you see rents in your market softening, then home prices have to soften even more. The cost of a home has to come down all the more because you're obviously competing with rents. So this is Dallas. Let's move to the next one. Seattle, Washington. Unbelievable. Okay, so again, you had this big run up in price with low interest rates, and then big interest rates push the ball even further up the hill. Okay, $4,890 a month average to buy in Seattle. The average rent, $2,160. The gap, enormous, $2,700 a month more to own than rent. That's 126% difference, folks. That I think is actually one of the highest graphs aside from this one right here. Salt Lake City, Utah, you see the same exact thing. Rents holding steady in Utah. So it seems like the marketplace already feels like rents are quite low. You're buying a $3,670 a month. It is a difference of nearly $2,000 and 109% difference. Okay, it's no surprise why Salt Lake has such high inventory right now. Okay, people are not buying the homes. Okay, Boise, Idaho, similar situation. Huge gap between $3,100 a month to purchase, $1,752 a month, saving almost $1,354. 77% difference. People are going to have a hard time buying until those prices come down. Knoxville, Tennessee, here again. Moving towards the south, I want to give the viewer an idea here of what a healthier marketplace looks like. Okay? Now I'm saying healthier, I'm saying if you take, for instance, Redfin's national data, you see an aggregate of all the marketplace. If you look at the South is holding tight. There's a lot of good data coming in for the South. It's not performing nearly as bad as the entire national averages, from an aspect of looking at, let's say, average sale price. So in Knoxville here, you see rents came up, home prices did too, cost of mortgage drove that line even higher, but the gap is not so far as you're seeing in a lot of these other marketplaces. In fact, the gap's only 25%. Okay? Again, another southern market, Orlando, Florida. Okay? You can see market flew, appreciation of homes went pretty high over this aqua rent line, but when the gap was pushed even higher, starting to see the softening come, and the lines are kind of trending a bit closer together, what you're seeing in the some of the other regions. 33.9%. So you kind of get a barometer that really everywhere with the cost of interest rates, no matter what, buying a home jumped the shark versus renting, but you can also see that even in the more stable areas, if you will, not seeing such a high amount of inventory spike, people not buying, prices falling, you're not seeing the same move that you're seeing in the West, in the South, but yet there is still a 25 to 35% difference. Going back to the West, Las Vegas, Nevada, surprised this one isn't higher. Okay, there's only a 49% difference. It's 50% more to buy. That is significant, but I really, in seeing Seattle and seeing Boise, I'm really surprised this one's not higher. So you've got $2,689 a month purchase, $1,800 to rent. You got almost 50% difference, and you can see. Look at price. Price is making a move. Like the money that it cost, the interest rate bump is almost gone in the Vegas market. You can see the interest rate, 3 to 6% interest rate change, spike cost, but look at the market change. Obviously, it's not interest rates that's creating this downward change towards the rent line. It's clearly prices are shifting, and obviously, much like Boise, much like Salt Lake, Vegas marketplace has seen a huge spike in supply, and now no one's buying it. The sellers that are selling are bringing the prices down. But look at the rent line. Rents are making a strategic play down. So even as the buying side, home prices are coming down a little bit, renting is actually coming down and starting to soften back. So I have to see how that goes. New York. I wanted to put New York in there because New York has been a head scratcher how it's seemingly doing decent when we don't expect it to do so. But you can see prices haven't really tipped too hard into New York. Rents are softening though just the same. The gap in New York is 47.4%. So gap in New York is as wide as it was in Las Vegas. I will say I think probably the massive amount of New Yorkers are probably financially stable enough to pay the extra 50% to buy versus rent. So it's probably a little bit less market demand for housing here probably hasn't shifted as badly as it has in a place like Las Vegas. So I'd imagine that their marketplace doesn't have such a high amount of inventory, but it's going to be one to watch. You can see across the country that all of these areas are going to have the first-time home buyer pause. And I would tell you, in some places, you might actually find where it's already getting close, where rent to purchase opportunities are very close in your marketplace. You have to look for them, okay? I'll give you an example. In my place in Orlando metro area, our first-time home buying purchase that I think is probably very compatible already is in the new construction sector. So like our builders are already bringing prices down in the new construction marketplace. So you're actually seeing, I'm seeing 1,500 square foot new builds, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, coming down under $300,000. And I got to tell you, if I'm looking backwards, a lot of these homes were $340,000, $350,000, $360,000. So, I'm seeing that 15-20% come out of the market on the new build side. Not to mention that when you're trying to cut this curve, the other thing builders do is they bring the interest rate down. They end up buying the rate down to get this, even though you're not borrowing as much money, they cut the price 15-20%. They brought all that appreciation out of the market by cutting the numbers and actually causing that depreciation, by just pulling the price back. But they're also creating an added benefit of lowering costs by putting in their cash to help the buyer buy the rate down so that they can get out of the house, because they understand this. They understand that they cannot be too far away with entry homes, first-time home buyer type inventory, and have it far away from what a person can rent. They have to make them line up much closer, and it's already happening. So you might see it in your area as well. But with that being said, I will respond to some comments. So if you want to see some metrics in your area along these same graphs, I'll try and respond to as many as I can going into the weekend. So let's continue the comments forward. As well, I want to thank Reventure Consulting, which is where I buy this data from. If you like some of their stuff, feel free to pay them as well. I'm not being paid, obviously, for this, but I do want to pay it forward because I'm obviously using his data because I like it. I think it's good stuff. But with that being said, continue the conversation in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for great updates on the housing market and the economy at large. We'll talk to you on the next one.